Hi everybody, yet again I'm back onto the Morphy Richards with another fault. Right, now this video, I'll spin you around. Um, this iron here was, let me just see if I can get the symptoms right. It was an intermittent steam. So I've done the normal safety checks, clean this valve out on here. There didn't seem to be any scale in there whatsoever. The rubber was in very good condition, so I put that back in. Then we turned it back on. There was steam leaking from the base, and when my missus picked it up, the towel that she has it sitting on the towel was wet, so there was obviously a leak from somewhere. So let me spin back around. So I've done open heart surgery on this iron, because a guy was asking me the other day, how easy is it to take the tank out? Now, right, there's the tank. Now, when I had a close look at this, I don't know if you can see just there. Let me point to it. If you see that where that dirt is coming out there was a line of lime scale running down. You can see where the mark was on the side of the tank there. There was lime scale. So I can only imagine that when they wind these in and then they put this heat seal on there, it's obviously, it must be leaking. I'm hoping that this is where it's leaking from. And because my missus said it was whistling, a bit like a kettle. So I reckon the water steam must have been coming out of here, filling the unit up with steam. That's why there was water in the bottom, because as the steam was condensing, it was filling the bottom of the unit up. So taking these tanks out isn't an easy task. There's parts on the bottom here. Let me show you this one I've got over here. There's parts on the bottom which aren't interchangeable. If I can explain. Hold on, bear with me. Right, if you can see this section here, I'm not sure if this iron was faulty because this bit here pulled off. Because if you look on the back of this one, they're obviously pressed on like a rivet. So that's not interchangeable, really. Because this tank here obviously came out of another iron I bought for spares. But when I took this valve off, it was level and clean on the inside. There was no scale in there. And this was obviously faulty because that was broken. Now, if you are going to go down the road of taking the tank out and swapping it for another one, if you've got one for spares, you've got to bear in mind you've got this massive blue cable here, which runs right underneath the whole unit across into this chocolate block here. And you have to unplug it from these two solenoids here. And they've got those funny bayonet connections that when you slide them on, there's like a little pin that drops into a hole. And they're a bugger to get off. You've got to take the heat shrink off, get a screwdriver in there and unpop while pulling it off at the same time. And this wiring is all, this is when I say about taking photos of everything, it all gets a bit confusing. So, when you've got it apart, if you can take pictures before it comes apart, so you have to take this red wire off the top. And then see, like on this one, you've got two wires going into one connection, which runs across, and there's a double connection on this one. And then you've got a blue wire that runs underneath. So you need to, as you take it apart, you need to take a photo every time before you disconnect something and see where it's routed, because there's a white wire. This white wire here, that threads through and it goes on the back of the circuit board here. So you need to take a photo of that. So it's not, I have problems with my memory. but it's so you can cross-reference, so you know you can get it exactly back together how it was. So I've just got this all back together. I'm going to put the top on and see how she works. See whether or not when I clean this valve out, whether, you know, because you have to, that's really, really tight, that nut on the back of there. Let me flip this over. Yeah, when you undo this nut here, and you support the tank as best you can, there's a lot of pressure on this union. So whether or not the seal on that other one was broken when I undid this, and it might not be anything to do, the problem it had before I undid this might not be anything to do with the leak it had there. But I'm sure that corrosion on there has been there for a while. So fingers crossed, we might have rectified the issue. So this video, I'm going to label it as water, Morphy Richards Steam Elite Iron with water dripping from the base. You could have any one of these pipes here could be leaking, but you need to check all these sealed unions that are on here to make sure you haven't got any leaks from there. The only way you're going to tell, you can't run this with it apart. It's too dangerous, really. This cylinder here, which is under pressure, is like a kettle without the plastic on it. It gets red hot. Not red hot, but you know, piping hot. You can burn yourself. So you know, and I think the way the steam comes out, you don't really want to be looking at this without the top on. It's a bit dangerous. So you know, you're going to have to be looking for areas that you can see corrosion or something like that before you start taking it to pieces, all the pieces. Now just remember, when you put it back together, make sure you get all these bits in. And if you do take it apart, that tank is sitting on 3 little rubber feet in there. So you need to make sure that that cylinder is sitting on those feet. And make sure that a bit of heat shield there is on that rubber pipe. And make sure you get this white heat shield, because there's the actual water pump is hidden behind this. You can't fix everything with these things. You know, there is a limit. Now, don't go asking me questions about electrics that everyone keeps asking me. All I do is interchange parts to try and fix the problem. I'm not an electrician. I don't know how to test things. If you know, there's obviously a way that you can test these things. Just make sure you take lots of pictures for reassembly, especially if you start taking the terminals off the bottom of here, because you do have to take this wire off if you're changing, because this wire is connected to the unit where all these wires are connected to the tank. It's a bit fiddly getting that one back together, but if you take a photo of it, you've got an earth wire that you have to put back on, and that is actually got an earth symbol on there. But I'd think twice before you're going to take the tank up. Anyway, so this is a Morphy Richards Steam Elite Iron with a leaky tank. Hope this helps someone out. Okay, bye.